If you are contemplating such a flight, then it would pay to become familiar with rafts, their contents, and their use. For example, there is a 90% chance that, because of the way they are packed, they will inflate right way up. But what if you strike the 10%? Although a raft takes approximately 10 seconds to inflate, you can start getting aboard after just 3 seconds. Getting wet is the quickest way to cool the human body. The less time you spend in the water, the greater your chances of survival. Also, a raft is a much larger target for search and rescue to locate. But just getting into a raft can use up a lot of energy. Trying it out on a training course can only be of benefit. Having survived the ditching only to succumb to the elements would seem a bit unfair. But, like ditching, if we have thought about it before the event, we stand a much better chance of pulling through. The shock of sudden immersion into cold water can kill. There are several responses. Heart failure is possible in those with weak circulatory systems, particularly the elderly. Hyperventilation occurs, which increases the chances of swallowing water. Cold limbs are weaker and uncoordinated, making swimming difficult. Breath-holding ability is severely curtailed to about 20 seconds, reducing the chances of successful escape from a submerged aircraft. Because panic can magnify these responses, it's important to remain calm and methodical if faced with a cold water emergency. Consciously control your breathing as much as possible. A life jacket can prevent you from drowning by keeping you afloat and keeping your head above water. But most life jackets do not give any significant protection against hypothermia, a condition we have talked about in previous survival programs. Hypothermia occurs when the deep or core body temperature falls below about 35 degrees Celsius. In cold water, the skin and peripheral tissues become cooled very rapidly, but it takes 10 to 15 minutes before the temperature of the heart and the brain begin to cool. Intense shivering occurs in a futile attempt to increase the body's heat production and counteract the large heat loss. Decreased consciousness occurs when the deep or core body temperature falls from the normal 37 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius. This can make drowning more likely. Heart failure is the usual cause of death when deep or core body temperature cools to below 30 degrees Celsius. Survival time for persons in cold water will vary greatly. In water of 15 degrees Celsius, which is fairly average water temperature around New Zealand, the predicted survival time would be in the range of between 4 and 5 hours, depending on body size and movement in the water. Children cool much faster than adults. Unconsciousness and drowning often occurs, however, before the predicted survival times are reached. We talked earlier about clothing and shoes. Broadly speaking, the more clothes that are worn on entry into the water, the longer will be the survival period. This will vary significantly depending on the type of clothing and the amount worn. However, if time permits, don as much clothing as possible, including headgear. We recommend that you don't try to swim to shore unless the distance is less than 1 kilometer. Hold the inner sides of your arms in contact with the sides of the chest. Hold your thighs together and raise slightly to close off the groin region. This position increases survival times significantly. If you are in a group, then huddle together to preserve heat, with any children sandwiched in the middle of the group for added protection. The principle, whether alone or with a group, is to reduce the amount of body surface exposed to the cold water, with the chest having first priority. One definition of survival is to continue to live or exist, to remain alive after going through or continue to exist in spite of a danger or accident. One moment you and your passengers are safe in a warm cockpit, and next you are in the water, possibly having to extricate yourself from a submerged aircraft. The attributes of a good survivor are confidence. People in the group are more likely to follow your advice if you feel confident. Decision-making ability, improvisation, ability to adapt to the situation, remaining cool, calm, collected and patient, and an ability to assess the situation. Your mental attitude will play a great part in your survival. In fact, the foundation of survival is the will to stay alive. This is not automatic. Some people have a greater survival instinct than others. The situation can play a part in determining the effect on the individual. Pain, cold, despair, deprivation, loss of loved ones are all factors that can demotivate a person and reduce the will to live. The mind and emotions can destroy all chance of survival, just as they can help a survivor succeed.